Mm. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
Chapter 3. The Dream. Dinner was a silent performance. Serena and Chad seated at opposite ends of the endless table, their words evaporating before they could cross the gulf. Plates appeared and vanished, each dish a miracle of precision. Tiny lamb medallions, vegetables carved into origami boats, sauces slick as oil paint. The silverware caught the candlelight and threw it back in sharp, icy flares. Serena forced herself to eat, chewing and swallowing as if the motions would unlock some lost routine in her muscles. Chad filled the air with pleasant nothings. Plans for the week, the promise of a garden party once she was herself again. Hints about the reclusive neighbors and the absurdities of rural English society. She responded with polite monosyllables, but her mind kept looping back to the emptiness of the house, the way it seemed to absorb sound, the way every corridor ended in a locked door or a glass wall, the way even the staff moved with such muffled efficiency that she sometimes wondered if they existed at all. After the meal, Chad excused himself to take a business call, and Serena seized the chance to wander. The house was different at night, shadows knotted in the corners, reflections doubling in the windows. She let her feet carry her along the runner carpets, past a music room with a closed piano, past a series of gilded mirrors that each caught and warped her image. She rounded a corner and found herself in a shallow alcove. A dark green rotary phone perched on a pedestal, so clean it glinted. She hesitated, aware of her own heart pounding, then lifted the receiver and pressed it to her ear. A faint dial tone thrummed on the line. Her fingers hovered over the pad. She searched her mind for a number, any number, home, police, a friend. Her mind offered nothing. She pressed 0. The phone chirped, then immediately spat a flat pre-recorded message.
Access restricted. Please enter security code.
She frowned, pressed the pound key and tried again.
Access restricted. Please enter security code.
A soft click behind her made her flinch. She turned, clutching the receiver like a weapon, and found Chad standing not a meter away. He must have moved like a ghost down the hallway. She hadn't heard a thing. He smiled gently, as though she were a child caught with a jar of honey.
Everything all right?
He asked. She replaced the receiver, palms sweating.
I thought I'd try to call someone, but I don't remember anyone's number.
Chad stepped in, took her hand between his. His skin was very warm.
The doctor said you shouldn't stress yourself with outside contact just yet. Your mind is healing. Sometimes, when people push too hard.
He trailed off, his gaze flickering over her face as if checking for microfractures.
It can delay recovery, or even make the amnesia worse.
She looked past him to the phone.
Is that why it's locked?
He laughed, a short, clipped sound.
No one uses landlines anymore. But if you like, I'll give you the code when the time is right.
He squeezed her hand and let it drop.
You have to trust me, Lana. I only want what's best for you.
She nodded, and this time the motion felt like her neck was resisting the instruction.
Of course.
He studied her for a second longer, then kissed her cheek, chastely, almost brotherly, and turned to go.
Come find me when you're ready for bed,
he said over his shoulder,
or ring Margaret. She'll help you with whatever you need.
Serena stood very still until the hum of his footsteps faded. She stared at the phone, wanting to rip it from the wall and hurl it through a window. She drifted back through the halls, guided by the faint scent of lemon wax and distant music. In the library, the lights had been dimmed to a soft gold. Margaret Wilcox stood by the far window, arranging a vase of lilies so they fanned perfectly toward the door. At Serena's approach, Margaret turned, her face composed.
Can't sleep?
Margaret asked, not unkindly. Serena shook her head.
It's all a little overwhelming.
Margaret set the vase down, smoothing a petal between her fingertips.
It's a large house. People get lost, but you'll settle in. They always do.
Has.
Serena hesitated, the question sticky on her tongue.
Have I lived here long?
Margaret's eyes flicked away, then back.
A while. Not forever.
She spoke as if reading off a script, her accent crisp enough to cut. Serena pressed on, needing to fill the silent spaces.
And you've always worked here?
3 years?
Margaret replied.
Before that, London.
Serena drifted to a bookshelf and pretended to study the spines.
It's beautiful, but it feels empty, like a stage set.
She waited for a reaction. Margaret's mouth twisted, then smoothed.
Mr. Owens likes it that way. Some people do.
Serena let the words hang. She looked up at the ornate ceiling moldings, the heavy velvet drapes, the chairs lined up as if expecting an audience. She thought again of the phone, the way Chad had appeared as if conjured. She lowered her voice.
Is everything monitored in the house?
Margaret hesitated, a microscopic pause, then said,
For safety, there are cameras. Some of the rooms, not the bedrooms.
She added the last as if it were an afterthought. Serena turned, catching the older woman's gaze directly.
It's just... I tried to use the phone, but it was locked.
Margaret's hand stilled on the vase.
House rules.
She said, eyes darting toward the door.
For your health.
Have you ever...
Serena hesitated, afraid to give herself away.
Has anyone else ever lost their memory here?
Margaret's jaw worked.
People forget things all the time, especially when they want to.
The answer felt rehearsed, but the expression behind it was not. There was a warning in Margaret's eyes, dark and glinting. Before Serena could speak again, footsteps sounded in the hall. Margaret straightened instantly, her face resetting to perfect neutrality. The door creaked and Chad appeared, tie loosened, glass of something brown and expensive in his hand.
Everything all right?
He said, voice pitched a shade too light. Margaret dipped her head.
I was just showing Miss Hartfield the evening arrangement.
Chad nodded, glancing from one woman to the other.
Lovely. Would you mind giving us a moment, Margaret?
The older woman stepped out, the door closing with a soft sigh behind her. Chad moved closer, voice velvet and unthreatening.
You shouldn't be alone at night, Lana. Bad things happen in old houses. Shadows. Echoes.
He laughed, but his eyes didn't. Serena's nerves buzzed like exposed wire. She searched for the right answer and found none, so she just stood there, back pressed to the bookshelf. He sipped his drink, watching her with that collector's gaze. He set the glass on a side table, ice ticking faintly.
Come, I'll walk you up.
She followed, feeling the pressure of his presence even when he walked ahead. As they ascended the stairs, Serena glanced behind and caught a glimpse of Margaret, standing at the base of the staircase, hands folded, face hidden in shadow. The walk to her room felt endless, the silence between them growing thicker. At her door, Chad touched her arm, a light but inescapable restraint.
Dream of me,
he said, smiling as if it were a benediction. She nodded, slipped inside and leaned against the door, pulse thumping in her neck. She stood there for a long time, listening to the creaks and sighs of the house, the phantom echo of a phone's unanswered ring. Time in the mansion bent around itself, days folding into one another like the silk sheets Serena never managed to tangle in her sleep. After the failed phone call, after the tours and the dinners and the relentless rituals of rest and recovery, night became her only private country. Alone in her suite, she could ignore the drone of Chad's voice and the constant unblinking presence of the staff. She could pretend, for a few brittle hours, that the world was hers again. The bedroom was a cathedral of excess, 4-poster bed swaddled in velvet, Persian rug sprawling underfoot, a chandelier whose points of crystal reminded her of fangs. The only light came from a single lamp by the vanity, where her reflection hovered, spectral and pale. She stripped off her blouse and stood before the mirror, watching her face emerge from the darkness. The gash above her eyebrow was healing but ugly. A purple-red welt that slashed across her brow like a signature. She traced it with the pad of her finger, wincing at the tenderness. In the mirror, she looked older than she remembered, eyes sunken and wild. She tried on a smile. It didn't fit. She set the scarf aside, ran water in the marble sink, splashed her face until the skin burned. Even clean, she felt layered in grime, something internal, not to be scrubbed away. She dressed for bed in a camisole and shorts that fit perfectly, but felt alien, as though tailored for a ghost. She sat on the bed, tucking her knees to her chest, and stared at the closed door. She was tired, but sleep resisted her, a trickle of adrenaline always running just beneath her ribs, as if some part of her expected the world to come crashing down at any moment. She tried to remember something, anything, from before the hospital, but every memory was contaminated, hazy, blank. She knew what she was supposed to be. Lana Hartfield, beloved fiancée, supermodel, Chad Owen's beautiful appendage. But none of it fit. It was like putting on a stranger's skin and pretending it was her own. She lay down, the mattress cold against her back, and closed her eyes. Sleep crashed over her in waves. The first dream was just color and sound. Lights, flashes, the hungry buzz of a crowd. She was on a stage, or a runway, wearing a gown that shimmered blue-black. Cameras flashed, faces blurred, but above them all a single pair of eyes, golden, inhuman, fixed on her. She tried to walk, but her feet stuck to the floor, heavy as anchors. The dream changed, sharp as a cut. She was in a different room, smaller, warmer, crowded with bodies and laughter. Someone's arm wrapped around her waist, familiar and safe. She looked up and saw him, a man taller than Chad, his skin a deep bronze, his hair wild and dark. He wore a white shirt open at the neck, and his smile, real, unguarded, cracked something open in her. He called her name, not Lana, but something else, something that made her heart skip. She reached for him, her fingers trembling, but the room blurred and he was gone. She woke with a start, sweat pooling in the hollow of her throat. Her arm was outstretched, fingers clawing empty air. She curled them into a fist, pulled her hand back to her chest. She could taste tears at the edge of her mouth. The room was silent, the digital clock by the bed reading 4:12 a.m. She lay there, listening to the blood pound in her ears, thinking of the man in the dream. His warmth, his scent, the way he'd looked at her as if she were the only real thing in the world. She turned her face into the pillow, muffling a sob that escaped before she could swallow it. The sheets tangled around her legs, pinning her in place. She tried to remember his name, but it hovered just out of reach, mocking her. She rolled to her side, stared at the ceiling, and waited for the sun to climb over the horizon and burn the dream away. But even in the cold clarity of morning, the ache remained, a hollowness that Chad's affection could never fill, a truth buried deeper than her wound. She pressed her palm to the scar, closed her eyes, and whispered the word that refused to die. Home.